something to say, there's something to say.
Hey everybody, how's it going? Our House 21 here, and now I just got done doing the front axle wheel bearing conversion to the Boca bearing lightning bearings right here, lightning bearing technology, LBT. You get the whole idea. So did the front axle, and these things are nice and slippery now. So now I need to go ahead and do the rear axle. So let's go ahead and dive on in. So the rear axle is actually pretty straightforward on this. I mean, there's not a whole lot to it. The good thing about the Slash two-wheel drive and the Rustler and Bandit platforms is that they make it mechanically simple, but it's actually pretty hardcore, or it's pretty robust. So I pop these bad boys off. Okay. Let's go through here. My good old Jayco foams. And once you guys know this process, you just get in, you get your screwdriver in between, just making it nice and balanced right here so it doesn't fall off my little stand. So give it a little twist, and it pops right off. There we go. Now you see on here, I'm doing a dual thing here. You see I've got a little bit of slop in here. So there's a little, I don't know if you can see that too well, but there's a little space that pops up and down in between the retainer and the axle. That's not good. That's axle slop. That can cause things to drift around a little bit. So I've been also going through and putting in Teflon washers in the suspension to help take some of that space out. Okay, so axles, or I should say bearings. So for here, this is a pretty straightforward process again. So I'm just going to go ahead and take out this little carrier, or this little retaining pin. Like so. And now I can pull off the washer. I already got a couple washers in here, but it looks like I need a couple more. Okay, so now this is a telescoping axle. So you see, one of these guys just already came right out. So I'm just going to take this guy off here, and I have this guy in the middle. Now, there's a couple ways to do this, so I'll show you the easy way. And I can stay with the easy way. Okay, because what I was thinking is that if there was slop on the axle here, then I would need to take this pin out and put a washer in place. But this is actually pretty tight here, so I don't have to worry about that. So all I'm going to do is take off this screw right here, and then drop this down, and then this bearing will come right out. So it makes life really easy for us. So let's get the appropriate bit in place. Here. And it helps if you use, when you say the appropriate bit, it helps if you actually use the appropriate bit. Okay. Alright, it comes right out. I'll just leave this hanging there so I can pull this here, and this pops through. Pretty straightforward. So there should be a Teflon washer here, and there is not. That's interesting. So it looks like when I put this guy together the last time, I was in a little bit of a rush and I forgot my washers. Okay, so I'll put a washer here. And now I will do the same thing that I was doing before on the front axle, just to, okay, so if you look inside these little cups here, you know, they can be a trap for dirt, moisture, all sorts of stuff. And over time, even though this is aluminum and the axles, the bearings have a stainless steel case, you know, they can still corrode or they can fuse together. So just to make it so that they're a little bit, they give a little bit of a buffer, I'm just putting a very light coat of grease. And any grease to do here. You can even use oil, but oil sometimes, grease stays around for a longer time. So you just use that, press that in place, and that makes it have a nice solid fit. But it basically helps it to not fuse together. Not fusing together is good. So now I can pull this axle back through like that. So now I can take my outside bearing, a little dab of oil or a little dab of grease, run it right through. So now this guy should pop right back in. Perfect. So now I can take these two washers that were already here, pop these guys back in place, like so. Now get my little retainer, and this time I use my needle nose pliers. Feed that through. Feed it through both sides. And ta-da. So now let's give it a little fit check. And that's pretty good. There's no slop there. Okay. So now you can tighten this bad boy back down. And again, remember you're going metal into metal here, so it can take a little bit more torque, but you don't want to go too much because you don't want to strip out these holes by accident. So let me turn my torque down a little bit, and I'll double check that by hand afterward. All right. And remember, I've used Loctite on these threads in the past to keep it in place. So, you know what? Just for the heck of it, because there should still be Loctite on these threads, but I'm not seeing it. So I'm just going to take a moment, put a little bit more Loctite on. And for those who don't know, there's two types of Loctite, or two commonly used types of Loctite. You got the blue and you got the red. The blue makes a nice, good, contact, holds things together, but it's pretty easy to remove. The red pretty much fuses things together. So for things that you want to put together, but you want to be able to service, use Loctite blue. For things that you want to put together once and never have to think about it again, use red. But just be warned that if you use the red, it's going to be a pain to get that back apart. All right, so that's good. Let me double check this here. Nice, very good. So that's perfect. So now let me just go ahead and put the hub back together. And sometimes these take a little bit more force than others. There we go. So together, nice and solid, one axle down. So let me go ahead and do the other side. And again, same process. Okay, the wheel bearings on these is actually a really straightforward, simple process. So it's not that big a deal to do. Need a little bit more torque. There we go. Beautiful. All right. So again, same process as the other side. Just go ahead and pop this guy off. Pop. Take out the pin. Well, first let's judge it for slop. This guy's tight. There's no slop in here, so I'm not going to have to add any more washers to it. washer. Take off that side. Right here. Okay, that time the screw came with it. That's okay, I'll just leave it together. Okay, so I can pull this apart. Axles out. And these are nice and free too. Sweet. And I think they're nice and free because unlike the front sides, I actually remembered to put some grease on them after my my axle bearing blowout. And for those of you who watch the channel, you remember that I actually had some bearings fuse to my rear axle a while back, and that was such a pain that I just went ahead and when I put it back together, I'm pretty sure I made sure that I did this same little trick here. And it looks like my lab assistant here.
I have no assistant.
Okay, you just told the audience that you are of no assistance. Kyle just came back, and as he just pointed out to everyone, he is of no assistance.
No, I said that I am no assistant.
Yeah, you're of no assistance.
No, I don't. No.
Okay, so you see on this side, I actually did remember putting the Teflon washer, which is probably why I had no slot. So, put this back together.
I'm missing a piece.
What are you missing, sir?
I have 2 screws. I have 1 cap here. I'm missing one of these caps. I had all 3 here.
Something fell on the floor a little bit earlier. That may have been what happened. Okay, so let me put my washer back in. Here. Okay, and drop in the retaining pin. Okay, and now the retainer back on, just to hold this in place. Okay, and put the screw back on after I put a little bit of Loctite.
Wait, so what are you doing? Sorry, I just came halfway in the video. What are you doing at this moment?
I'm doing the rear wheel bearings for Slade here.
Oh, that thing.
Yes. And thank you, Kyle.
Did I do something wrong?
And talking to you, I wasn't paying full attention to my Loctite. I just dripped the big glob right down into my suspension arm.
Not good.
No, not good. Not terrible, but not good. Okay, so fitting this back together. Alright, so now tighten this bolt back in. And again, remember, that's too much torque.
That was, I don't know if it's cool or...
Yeah, that, you don't want that to happen. So let me just manually check it, make sure everything's good. Although I'm pretty sure that I'm gonna back this one off a little bit.
Can I use like the drill?
Give me a second, sir. Okay, yeah, that was over torqued. Now just tighten it back in. Just want it nice and snug so it doesn't move. Now we're good. So now we have front and rear axles all done. All right, so next up you guys are going to see, I'm going to dig in, I'm going to tear apart this transmission, and we're going to get the last of this job done. So this is the most involved part of the process. So this is, in order to do this, basically the entire clip of the car is going to come apart. So you'll get to see lots of intricacies that, well, you actually saw a lot of this already when I did the differential rebuild, but you get to see it again. Alright guys, our House 21 signing out. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Remember to check me out on Facebook and Instagram and all the other social media that's out there. And as always, remember the mantra: fly, fix, fly, break it, fix it, and do it all over again. Peace.